people of the Dr. BMS community. Have you ever wondered, people who are struggling with addiction to drugs and alcohol, behavioral problems in that regard, are there common characteristics or traits you can associate with these people, or is each person unique in their own right? Today, I would like us to delve deeper into that, and as we discuss this, maybe it can provide a mirror you can use to look at yourself, to look at someone you know, and see if this applies to them, or maybe learn one or two things about how you can make that better, correct that. So yes, as Dr. BMS, I'll tell you, it is true that there are common characteristics you can associate with people who are struggling, engaging in addiction to drugs, alcohol, abusing alcohol and drugs. Every person is unique in their own right, but we have common characteristics. And today I just want to talk about 5. There are more. In future videos, I'll talk a bit more about the others. I'll talk about 5 today. And before I mention this, I would like to say this. In a previous video, I said you start getting this problem of addiction to drugs and alcohol because you are exposed to these things. You get introduced to them and you start using them increasingly. Some people have got a genetic predisposition to addiction. Like the makeup of their bodies is such that if they start using alcohol or drugs of recreation, they are not able to control themselves. The end point is not there, so they are likely to go overboard and become addicted. But there are also other people who do not have this genetic problem, but they have used these drugs to such an extent that now the natural defenses that were in them have been destroyed. The brakes have failed because you were speeding. You are moving your car so fast, even if you applied the best brakes, it was likely to crash into the wall because of the speed. And so whichever scenario is obtaining, they can obtain individually, like you have a genetic predisposition, or you used too much, you lost control, or you can be someone who has both. You have a genetic predisposition, but you started using so fast and now things went south. So whichever brought this, and you get up in a rehabilitation center, or you've not come there, you're still out there, the family is struggling, are there traits that we can see in these people? We can say, this is common. Yes, there are. I'll discuss 5. Before I go into those 5, please click on that subscribe button. Become a subscriber of Dr. BMS channel and activate that notification bell. You get notified when we make these videos, because these videos are good for you. They challenge you to think about your life, your family, as a parent, as a child, as a prospective parent, and they help us grow to be better people, health-wise, in our bodies, in our mind, in our soul, and in our social relationships. So, what are these 5 characteristics I want to discuss today? Number 1, I'll start with Mama's Boy. I've talked about Mama's Boy in 2 videos already. And so today I'll not go so much into what it is, how it comes about, but I'll just say some of the people who are in addiction to drugs and alcohol actually are mama's boys and daddy's girls. Now, I've not talked much about daddy's girls, but I will. I promise in the next video I'll talk about daddy's girls, because this is also an interesting area. And so mama's boy or daddy's girl generally are people who have grown up with a lot of pampering, and they were not allowed to grow skills, to become independent. And so these are people who then suffer what I call delusion of security. You think you are secure because mama is there, dad is there, they'll provide, they'll do anything. But that's not true. There will come a time they're not there. There are situations they will not be there, and then your world crumbles. That frustration, that shock can lead you into abusing drugs because you think now you want to reduce the stress. You have been sacked at work because you're not performing and mama can't protect you, or your wife has left you and you think this cannot happen to me, so let me just go and have a beer, let me smoke a joint, and there you go. You become addicted because essentially you're mama's boy, and no longer mama is not there, dad is not there, your daddy's girl, so the world now is teaching you the rough way and you cannot cope, you start abusing drugs. It's common among people we find in rehabilitation. A second trait we find commonly are people who are usually adolescents or just young people, and they have, I call them fake celebrities or fake stars. You have this feeling that you are a very important person, famous, powerful, you can do this. But this assumption is based on what is not yours, because your father is a big shot somewhere. So yeah, my father is Dr. BMS, he makes these good videos, he has many followers. So my son, my daughter starts behaving like she is Dr. BMS, but she's not. And given a chance, she may not make a video no one can watch. But now, whatever I have, she wants to use it, take my car, go run around and boast to friends, get money from me and indulge in spending sprees and go for holidays, and they do not work, they don't want to be responsible because they think they're already big stars, celebrities, based on their parents or their family's fame. As always, this crumbles, and in the shock, in the frustration, in the depression, some of them end up with drugs, and some of them, even before their world crumbles, as they are partying and marrying all around, they may just go overboard because they're actually doing these things with drugs of recreation, drugs of addiction. So we find a lot of fake stars with delusions of grandeur in addiction rehabilitation centers or even out there in the community, but abusing drugs, addicted to drugs. We also have a third category, which you find commonly. I call them self-medicators. Now, these are people who have primarily mental health conditions. They have not been diagnosed by specialists, by doctors, professionals. They have not been started on treatment, but they are sick. Silently, they are sick, and these problems are causing them to be uncomfortable. So they look for a way out, and one of the things they do is to get drugs of addiction, alcohol, cannabis, to soothe. Commonly, we have problems like anti-personality, anti-ADHD. We have a problem like attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. I'd forgotten what it stands for. So these are people who find it difficult to focus on anything because their brain cannot focus on something and stay there. They're restless. They cannot focus on something. They cannot start a task and finish. And this frustrates them. People reprimand them at school, at work. They get warnings. So in that frustration, they may start taking a little alcohol, smoking a joint to cool them, marijuana, and there they go. Some of them are people who have bipolar mood disorder. Their moods go into very depressed mood. They are low. Sometimes they are very hyperactive. We call it a manic state. So it is bipolar to the poles. One pole up, another pole down. And in this up and down, they're not happy. They cause disruptions in their own lives, in their families. And they may use something to just elevate their mood. Let me drink something. Let me smoke a joint to cheer me up when I'm in a low mood. Or they are hyperactive. Let me take something to cool me down so that I can sleep because my brain is not resting. I can't sleep. So they start taking. They are self-medicating. They're treating conditions which are mental health conditions, diseases, if you may, but they don't know they have diseases. They are using drugs of addiction unknowingly to treat. If these people were diagnosed by specialists and started on treatment, they will recover and they may not need these drugs. So we see this in depression, we see this in anxiety disorders, and they are using drugs of addiction because they know no better. A fourth category that runs across most of these people is people who, I said, they are lost in grounding and identity. These are usually people who have a problem from childhood. They experienced childhood trauma. They were abandoned by their parents. They were abused when they were young. There are people who did not have mentors to guide them. They got wrong information, so they were told, if you take this, you will be a star. If you smoke marijuana, then you are going to know how to do mathematics, calculus, whatever, algebra. So they were lost in grounding. They have a false sense of identity or no identity. They are floating as people without anchors because of a poor, a dysfunctional family background. Some of them, the frustration can again lead them to drugs of addiction, thinking they'll find a cure there, and they may get lost and become addicted, abusing these drugs. The fifth and last one I want to mention today are those who, I would say, they are hopelessly lost in time. These are generally people who may fall in the previous four categories, but they can be standalone also. But what is significant about this group of people is that there are people, for whatever reason, they started indulging in drugs of addiction. They lost their way. They lost focus. They did not develop skills. They did not attend school well. They did not attend to their work. They lost their job. They lost their family. Things went south somewhere. And this went on for quite some time. And their coping was using drugs, maybe denial, scapegoating, postponing what needed to be done, and time never stops. Time kept passing. And now it is too late. They realize it's too late to reverse the damage that has happened. You can't go back to school. You can't go back to that job. Your family went. You can't get your children back. They don't recognize you. So now these people are despairing. Some of them are bitter. They are resentful. They are hopeless deep inside. And now they see like there's no way out. Let me just drink. What can I do now? So there are people who are hopelessly lost in time. I mention these things so that when you see these characteristics, because they never just start and develop fully at once, they are gradual. Maybe there's something you can do. You can come out and seek help from us professionals. We give counseling to families, to individuals, in rehabilitation, in groups, social groups, church, school. Come out, seek help, and maybe you can do something about it. Thank you. Remember to share this video if you like it, to subscribe, and see you again in another video of Dr. BMS.